Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome for a second time a well known, respected, and very senior professional and an author from Mumbai, India, Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti. Shailesh, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh. I must begin by complimenting you on the amazing impact you are having through the brand called you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Shailesh is a pioneer, an entrepreneur, an innovator, author, board chairman, educationist, and a chartered accountant. He's an author of a book titled Awake, and we're going to be talking about his book today. He's also co-authored uh, digital. He's a digital professional, audit renaissance, ESG, AI auditing, and sustainable abundance. So, Shailesh, before we come to your book, a few questions for you. Your journey has spanned entrepreneurship, leadership, governance, and nation building. When you look back, which early experiences have shaped the person you are today?
So, the earliest experience I remember is my leadership role as General Secretary of the Union at
Oh, wow.
Sydenham College.
Amazing. Okay.
We took an extraordinarily principled stand.
Hmm.
Doctors in Mumbai wanted to go on strike,
Hmm.
and we said, please, with folded hands, we
Hmm.
tell you, please don't do that.
Hmm.
We promise that every student
Hmm.
will wear a black band.
Hmm.
And we did that, and that averted a strike,
Wow.
which would have brought Mumbai's medical, treatment infrastructure
Hmm.
to a grinding halt.
Hmm.
I can never forget how sort of satisfied we felt that a good principled stand actually stood the test of time and actually got results.
How amazing. How amazing. And what an amazing story for you to share with us. Thank you. I've been reading a lot about you, and you have consistently reinvented yourself throughout your career. What inner shifts or external moments has pushed you to so many new chapters?
It's my curiosity and
Right.
my love of the young generation.
Hmm.
Today, if you ask me, where do I get my maximum inspiration from?
Hmm. Hmm.
It is from the the third generation,
Hmm.
my grandchildren's age.
Correct.
Yesterday,
Hmm.
I met a seventh standard young man,
Hmm.
all dressed up in a suit, young fellow,
Hmm.
seventh standard. And he was talking about IoT, 3D printing,
Hmm.
quantum computers, and the new tech world.
Right.
And we asked him, what would you like to be when you
Hmm.
grow up?
Hmm.
He says, I will go first to IIT
Hmm.
and then I will become an IAS officer.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that is what makes me feel that at every age, you must pivot. I'm
Correct.
actually living my fourth life today,
Hmm.
if you like. I began as a student and then as a teacher, then as a person who led an accounting firm to
Hmm.
a very significant
Absolutely.
position in India.
Hmm.
Then I taught myself physics, chemistry, and biology, moved to sustainability, and then I pivoted to AI, which is where, at the cusp of AI and sustainability, is where I'm spending most of my
How
time.
amazing. How amazing. You and I are of a similar vintage, and I think I'm doing exactly what you're doing. And I have
Wonderful.
a lot of time for young people, as you are saying. But one more question before I come to your book. And over the years, what are some of the changes you have observed in the mind of India's youth compared to when maybe you and I started our journeys together?
The biggest thing I'm seeing in today's youth
Hmm.
is that they are quietly
Hmm.
and in a very not in the face manner,
Mm.
picking up intelligence. We talk about artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
but the real intelligence that I'm seeing evolving and emerging is in our youngsters,
Mm.
because they have so many windows to the world open to them.
Correct.
We kind of presumed that the only way that we could learn was through the Times of India or the Economic Times,
Yeah.
Standard Economist, or the Harvard Business Review, or whatever. They pick up feeds from the best sources
Correct.
from anywhere in the world. Somehow they get to it. And when I speak to them, I find
Mm.
that they are, I mean, as I told you, seventh standard kid talking about IoT and 3D printing.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just bowled me over.
Amazing. I agree. Completely agree with you. So let's now talk about your book, Awake. And before I ask you the question, I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti's book, Awake. So tell me about your book and what motivated you to write this book.
I was invited by Sri Sri University,
Mhm.
Cuttack,
Mhm.
to be there to inaugurate a small center
Mhm.
for risk management.
Mhm.
And in the evening on that day was the function to recognize people who had finished their education at the university.
Mhm.
I saw 30 individuals trooping up to receive their doctorate. These are
Mhm.
PhDs. 25 of them were women.
Wow.
I was so inspired, so inspired. But when I spoke to them,
Mhm.
they all came back with one question. What is the world of jobs that is emerging around us? And will I
Mhm.
be able to find a job?
Mhm.
Yesterday,
Mhm.
a young person accosted me and asked me the same question.
Mhm.
That if I'm already a chartered accountant, should I do an MBA now to
Mhm.
get better in the job market?
Mhm.
I had to tell her that don't think about the job market anymore.
Mhm.
Start thinking of becoming an entrepreneur
Mhm.
and giving jobs to people around
Correct.
and harnessing the power of intelligence and IT and converging technologies and
Mhm.
all of that to become a very powerful, successful creator of value.
Mhm.
So, what is happening, Ashutosh, is that India 3, which did not have the ability to consume,
Mhm.
is now becoming a creator.
Correct.
They will create and curate experiences.
Yeah.
And that's where they are going to make the big.
Mhm.
So, my book was inspired by creating a sense of comfort for the youth of India
Mhm.
that the world is abundant. The world is waiting for you.
Correct.
The world will embrace you if you are awake.
Correct.
And that is what motivated me to write this book. And
Mhm.
as you know, I have released it for free distribution
Yeah.
on the net. And it has no price. I have
Yeah.
not priced it. It is free for everybody. And I love it that way because my heart goes out to the young person who is
Mhm.
thinking, will I get a job?
Correct. Correct.
And the whole
Correct.
world saying that we want to become more efficient and more productive, we want to get more out of less, and we want,
Mhm.
and so there is an absolute tension there.
Mhm.
And that needs to be protected.
Very
The
interesting.
young person's aspiration,
Yeah.
faith, hope, desire to excel
Mm.
needs to be protected.
Amazing. You describe the mind as a supercomputer that we have not learned to use. Which practices have helped you train your own mind?
What a fantastic question, Ashutosh. I like to sit quietly
Mhm.
in a room
Correct.
and observe what is truly happening, the dynamic of the room.
Mhm.
How are people actually signaling what is really happening, what is
Hmm.
playing out as the story.
Yeah.
And that story is very different from what appears to be. So if
Hmm.
somebody were to take a video of that event
Hmm.
and then ask me to describe that event,
Hmm.
it would be at two ends of a spectrum.
Correct. Correct.
And I feel it is in that gap that the mind gets strained.
Hmm.
I get massive inspiration from one-on-one conversations
Hmm.
like this.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I tell people, I've told many young people that the greatest hallmark of you as a good human being
Hmm.
is whether you can sit next to a stranger in an airplane
Hmm.
and make that person through that airplane journey to
Correct.
a great friend.
Correct. Correct. Well said. You also say, and I love this phrase, work is worship only if we choose our temple.
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone stuck in a misaligned role or a job?
I would say first, understand whether you are the cause or you are the butt of the. If you are the cause, then reform yourself.
Yeah.
That's the first port of call. I've
Mm.
always said, maybe I'm wrong.
Mm.
Maybe I have done something
Correct.
not appropriate.
Mm.
Let me correct myself.
Mm.
But if you genuinely feel that no, it's not as if I'm wrong,
Mm.
but this is a dead end job
Mm.
and I'm not enjoying it and I'm not able to fulfill, I can promise
Mm.
that the world is so abundant that it will find work which is fulfilling
Mm.
for every human being.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right. You also say that our friend circle shapes our destiny.
Absolutely.
What qualities do you look for in relationships that help you to stay aligned?
Well, I must talk about it in terms of my deep friendships.
Mm.
So every day in the morning, I wake up, of course, at 4, but
Mm.
my walking time is 6:30. So I
Mm.
leave my home and drive down to Parel, where my very dear friend,
Mm.
who is a ex-Supreme Court lawyer,
Mm.
lives. And we walk and talk for an hour every day.
Mm. Mm.
So what is it that built that kind of friendship?
Mm.
It is that we are a 3 a.m. friend.
Mm.
I look for 3 a.m. friends
Correct.
with whom I can share the deepest secrets, the
Mm.
best ideas of what is going right and what is going wrong.
Mm.
I have another friend in Delhi who is an exceptional speaker.
Mhm.
When he would speak, and this I'm talking about 1972,
Mhm.
so it's like almost
Yeah.
like over half a century ago.
Mhm. Mhm.
But when he would speak, the whole audience would be rapt.
Mm.
And he had this amazing quality of argument, which was so impactful
Yeah.
because he gave you eye contact.
Mm.
And that's what made him my very special friend. Whenever I go to Delhi,
Mm.
I get any time I spend.
Mm.
And of course, there are
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
Pune and everywhere. I
Absolutely.
made a friend
Absolutely.
who worked in Nigeria.
Mm.
And these are very deep relationships where you feel that you can be yourself. There's
Correct.
no need to be fettered with what will look right and what will go
Absolutely.
down properly.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Very well said. Very well said. You also describe money as stored potential, not consumption. Why do you believe financial freedom is the foundation of personal freedom?
you know, it is access to assets
Hmm.
is far more important than the ownership of the asset.
Hmm.
And I realized that time and again
Hmm.
when I travel in somebody's private plane or helicopter, or I visit an exceptional headquarters building,
Hmm. Hmm.
spend time in the boardroom there, whatever. It just tells me that it's not as if I need to be having all of that
Hmm.
available to me. And therefore, it's the potential and it
Correct.
is the access and it is the ability to be in a position to have that access
Hmm.
because you are welcome.
Correct.
And that is why the expression I use is
Hmm.
money is a potential.
Hmm.
Of course, we all need do waqt ki roti, so to speak,
Absolutely.
and a
Yes.
home
Yes.
and a
Yes. Yes. That I agree with you.
move in, etc. But
Hmm.
that's it.
Hmm.
Beyond that, it is all surplus, superfluous. If you have access to great assets, that is far superior than owning them.
Correct. Absolutely right. You also say clear thinking is the highest form of intelligence. What habits, in your view, can help people think more clearly in such a noisy world?
To every young person, I would say,
Hmm.
spend at least 20 minutes in meditating.
Hmm.
Get back to truly trying to understand who you are.
Hmm.
Really. Go deep into yourself
Hmm.
and consider that if everything that is around you were to vanish and that you were on an island
Hmm.
with zero population except yourself,
Yeah.
who would you be
Hmm.
and what would you think of and what would you speak and how would you behave? And if you can go deep down
Hmm.
and truly get in touch with
Hmm.
yourself,
Hmm.
you will realize how powerful that feeling of knowing yourself
Correct.
is. That helps you to relate to the rest of the world in a facile manner.
Hmm.
Because once you are sure about yourself, then everybody else is good. I have had one principle in life:
Hmm.
never speak behind anybody's back, ever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Never speak ill of anybody
Hmm.
because it doesn't matter. It's your evaluation.
Yeah.
You have to first know yourself and evaluate yourself.
True. 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 Amazing. India is entering a century of abundance, as you mentioned. What responsibilities, in your view, come with living in such a time?
Continuous learning,
Mm-hmm.
unlearning,
Mm.
and relearning.
Mm.
That to me is fundamental to the India that is emerging
Right.
because everything is changing around us.
Correct.
Infrastructure is changing at a pace that we've never known before.
Yeah.
Technology is converging all around us.
Mm.
I mean, almost everything that can be automated is being automated.
Mm.
Everything that can be digital is becoming digital.
Yeah.
We have the most powerful digital rails in the world,
Mm.
thanks to DPI and DPG.
Mm.
And, uh, and therefore, I think that resilience and that ability to keep learning, be curious, keep learning,
Mm.
that to my mind is the best insurance for a Viksit Bharat mein rehne wala Hindustani.
Mm.
That's what will happen and emerge. And then we will see abundance all around us.
Mm. Amazing. Time for three more questions for you. You say that care, creativity, craft, judgment, and trust cannot be automated. And yet, we were speaking about how much time you and I have both been spending on learning AI. Which of these do you believe India should prioritize? most urgently?
So India should prioritize application. And I would say we should prioritize application in two areas. One,
Hmm.
where a bulk of our population is engaged, which
Hmm.
is agriculture. And therefore, I'm deeply attracted by Fei Li's idea
Hmm.
of creating a world model,
Yeah.
which we can use for simulation and which we
Hmm.
can use for doing our climate resilient
Hmm.
actions, particularly in the area of water
Hmm.
and in the area of uh, dropping the pollution levels. I mean, the headlines in almost every newspaper in Delhi and Mumbai is about AQI. It's
Correct.
never been the case before,
Yeah.
but it is
Yeah.
today. And therefore, I feel that's where we should apply
Hmm.
AI urgently and fully. And
Correct.
I dream about Dyson swarms and solar capture,
Hmm.
low Earth orbit, and I think about laser transmissions, and I
Hmm.
think about that kind of world where
Hmm.
we are in a position to make our planet clean and green,
Correct.
still enjoy everything,
Hmm.
and make sure that it is green and it is clean and it is abundant.
Well said. Well said. You also speak about the age of care, creation, and construction. What sectors or fields do you believe will define the next few decades for our country?
You know, the biggest thing that will define our country is how we care for our elderly
Hmm.
and how we care for our children.
Hmm.
I think that's those are the two extremities
Hmm.
that will define us as a nation. Take children.
Hmm.
Why should any child in this country
Hmm.
not have access to learning at
Correct.
a pace and in a manner
Hmm.
and in the construct that that person has a natural gift for?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
each one is differently endowed.
Hmm.
And that's where I think is the biggest application of AI.
Correct.
Hyper personalized tutors
Hmm.
for students to help them along their learning journey.
Yeah.
Take the care of elderly.
Hmm.
There, I'm finding abandonment. I'm finding uh, absolute, something that I can't call humanity,
Hmm.
playing itself out
Yeah.
in innumerable
Yeah.
instances.
Yeah.
And with that, there is so much of anxiety and uncertainty in
Hmm.
us
Hmm.
because when we see all of this, there is that sense of dread as to what will happen in case something happens and you get incapacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And therefore, I feel it is at these two ends of the spectrum that the world will start recognizing any
Hmm.
country
Hmm.
as worthy. Because abundance is going to be
Yeah.
everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, if you discover a Dyson swarm driven solar abundance, solar power abundance, it's going to
Hmm.
work everywhere in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, what will distinguish you is how you care for humanity.
Hmm.
And that is where India will score because I think we are a civilizational, spiritual country.
Correct. Well said. And my last question for you. Many young people feel anxious and overwhelmed, given the pressures there are in today's world. Which one message from your book, Awake, do you believe they need the most today?
Only one lesson: be confident.
Be
Confident.
be confident.
The world is a wish fulfilling machine. It will, if you wish it deeply, dearly,
Hmm.
and you know yourself,
Hmm.
it will happen. And that is why you need to keep awake,
Hmm.
keep learning, keep engaging, keep building relations.
Yeah. And on that note, Shailesh, what an amazing conversation this has been. I mean, you really uh, squeezed so many years of experience, so many years of wisdom into your book. And I think I only just managed to scratch the surface of some of your thoughts in your book, The Awake. But every single point that you spoke about has so much knowledge, has so much uh, earthy, foot on the ground kind of input. And yet, here is a person who I'm speaking to who, just before we started the conversation, said he's now soaring in the world of AI. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ashutosh, and be blessed and keep doing fabulous work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.